Hey everyone, this is Natalie reminding you that on the fourth week of every month, we are doing a flashback episode to welcome in some of our new listeners and help them get caught up with all of our tolerator content. And you know what I've been missing recently? The feel of Barbie summer. So please enjoy our review of the Barbie movie with the Julia Washington, and we will see you next month with all new episodes of To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. I thought it would be cute if we went into our favorite memories of Barbie or like how Barbie entered our lives.
I do like that.
Thank you. I wish more people were actually doing that as a trend instead of showing me what their men do for work. I don't care what your man does for work. I don't care.
And especially in the conversation of the Barbie chat, like my best friend and I walked out of the movie and we were like, if you know Barbie lore, the Barbie universe, then better. Because it was like Mattel was like, here are the keys and access to our librarian. I feel like Barbie's always been, because I've always loved dolls. I've always loved anything that I can dress up and make pretty. The very first Barbie I remember buying for myself is actually in the opening credits of the movie. It's the Barbie with like the neonish swirly type dress with the very long hair. Like, that's the first Barbie I bought for myself. So people have been buying me Barbies, but I had my own money and bought that Barbie because I was like, look at all that hair.
The hair.
The hair.
Barbie hair is also such a part of the experience, which I feel like they could have gone into more about like the care and the upkeep of Barbie hair.
Did you ever have the Barbie head that you could do, like, the haircut? Okay, my sister did too, and then it was a hand-me-down to me, and then at some point I cut off all its hair, and that was it.
And now no one will see that Barbie. Now she's just... What do you think happened to all of the Barbie heads in Barbie Land?
Ooh.
Do you think they're in that really scary, like, museum type thing that happens in the Wizard of Oz sequel that I traumatized myself with, but not many people did?
Yeah, I've blocked out the sequel. I've seen it, but I had to block it out.
Do you remember she goes into like a building?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So rows of heads in jars.
It's like that Toy Story scene where the doll gets attached to the thing from Sid the Next Door Neighbor. Like, I guess I just envisioned that being it. But tell me your Barbie experience.
I have two memories that coordinate with Barbie. And the first is I, like many children, played too hard with a Barbie and made a weird Barbie. And I was behind a large piece of furniture in my like childhood home, my first childhood home. And I was hiding behind there because I had scissors and I had like a mission. And I cut off all of my Barbie's hair. And my mom came and she found me because she's so nosy. Yeah. And she just started screaming at me because she had assumed that I cut my own hair. She did not care that I destroyed the doll, but like we lead with cursing first and questions later. It all worked out. But then we used to spend summers with one of my older cousins. She would come and spend a couple of weeks with us, or sometimes all summer with us, or a while with us. I don't know. She's 10 years older than me. So we would produce a Barbie reality TV show.
Love.
Or no, reality TV show. We had no concept of that in the early 90s. But like, yeah, a soap opera. We called it like Sophia's Story. And there were like plot lines and like, you know, love triangles.
Love
and
that.
No one had a job, but we were all very rich. And
yeah. Yeah, because honestly, it's Barbie's world. You're playing with Barbie. Like, My cousin had a playroom. It was wall-to-wall Barbie shit. Every Barbie you could ever think of, all her outfits, all the accessories. I literally have no idea how my aunt was able to afford any of that.
One of my cousins had a off-brand Barbie. A Marbie, I don't know. And it was supposed to say...
Barbie.
Marbie? Barbie? I don't know. Barb? It was supposed to say, it's like Barbie with a Y. It was one of the ones that could talk if you pressed a button in its ass.
Oh.
And so it was supposed to say, welcome to my party. But she was clearly like getting down low on the voice box and the like battery of it all. So it instead sounded like, welcome to my potty. And I was a child, so I just did a type 5 on bathroom jokes.
Yeah.
And I think that's when cousins couldn't be friends anymore. Like, my cousin was so super pissed. I think I had to go home. I think I made her cry.
Aww.
I mean, that's comedy, kids. I wasn't making fun of you. I was making fun of potties.
Right. I will say that the commentary I've seen from some of the Black creators that I follow who are very much doing anti-racist work, they are discussing how this is very much white feminism. I have to hard agree with that, because there is a level of privilege in Barbie Land, and now Barbie Land is diverse, right? Like, it's definitely more diverse now in Barbie Land than in reality.
And I think that the validation in saying that it's white feminism as a white is that white feminists just like to assume that if everything's nice, everything's fine.
Right.
So, like, Barbie Land is beautiful, and there are overweight Barbies, and there are,
Barbies in wheelchairs.
Yeah, differently abled Barbies, and, true ally Alan. And I think that white feminism is, like, purposeful in it, because she keeps saying, like, I just don't understand. We fixed this. And, like, white women believe that every time we march. We're like, good on us. We fixed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you say it, it might be, one of those satirical commentaries on how sort of white women approach feminism and all that it's involved. Because when everyone was talking about, like, oh, Greta's Letterboxd interview, she talks about the however many movies that influenced her making this film or whatever. And I knew that, we all knew that the Kubrick influence, because it's the opening scene. And then she had commented in an interview in passing, in a different interview, about how, like, oh, and there's others. I thought she meant there were other Kubrick references. I didn't realize until I saw the Letterboxd interview that there was, like, a shit ton of movies she was referencing. So I went back, because I've seen clips of it on TikTok. So I went to Letterboxd directly to watch the full 13-minute interview. And she goes movie by movie, specifically which scenes were impactful. And then in watching that, I was like, okay, that makes even more sense to me on why specifically, like, Ken gets a dream ballet and Barbie doesn't. Because it's always, like, it's in reference to, Gene Kelly movies. Specifically, I think she said American in Paris, which is one of my favorite films ever. Gene Kelly is the crush of my 1950s dreams. And then, Singing in the Rain was another influence that she talks about. And again, that has a dream ballet within a dream ballet. And so, like, when I saw this interview, I was like, now this fully makes sense on why certain things happen in the movie, and Ken gets all the whatevers and Barbie doesn't, because she's pulling, like, the sort of what she's inspired by. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe she didn't want to, like, reframe it for the women, but I don't know. It just, to me, it was, like, the answer that I needed, I guess. I don't know.
I have a really hard time swallowing that, like, the women were afterthoughts in the Barbie movie. Because for me, and I think what it is that I think in my head, we're, like, conflating women empowerment with misogyny awareness. Ooh. And to me, the Barbie movie is a misogyny awareness movie. Like, oh, look, Ken spent 15 minutes in the real world, and he was like, and now I am a destroyer of nations.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Not actually, like, because you're not smart or anything, but because I didn't think of it either.
Yeah, I think, and for me, that is, like, what an empowering move for Greta, for her to make an entire movie about the jokes you and I make about patriarchy.
All the time. And that's the other part of it, too. Like, I walked out of it and I was like, I fucking feel like if Natalie and I had written Barbie, this, or a movie that sort of satirizes the misogyny of it all, this could have been it.
And I think that when you kind of changing your head about it being like anti-misogyny propaganda, it very much feels like we let men in on the joke, and their feelings are still very hurt. But we let them in on the joke, like, this is what we understand to be going on in your fucking heads whenever you mistreat us or colonize something or anything like that. They get to be a part of it because it's pretty. Mm-hmm. And, like, I'm still convinced that Rob Thomas doesn't understand why his song was picked for the movie.
Well, when what was it the Us Weekly or People or one of them where they, like, reached out to him and were like, hey, what did you think about it? And he's like, oh, I thought it was great. And it was like you said, like, did you see this scene that it was used for? Because, like, sir.
Have you listened to the lyrics that you've written? Because, like, to me, there's no bigger joke and no, like, letting women let loose better than a Ken doll, a beach full of Ken dolls, making dead eye contact with a beach full of Barbies, being like, I wanna push you around, and I will, and I will. And it's like, oh, your expectation is to, like, put me down, and you will, and you will.
Yeah.
The whole song is about taking me for granted, which is what we've built the patriarchy. We have built the patriarchy on the shoulders of taking women for granted.
Yeah, and that's I think that's one of the steps of, the patriarchy, because in order for there to be success, you have to have someone at home caring for your children, for your home, doing all the things for you so you don't have to take up the brain space. And Ken really does kind of get into that. He's like, you never think of me. You never do. And it's like, but Ken, dear, this is Barbie land. She don't have to think about you. She don't have to care about you. She don't have to do none of that shit. This is not your world. You're just Ken. And I think that was like, for me, that was part of the commentary of like, but then the difference being is that Barbie was like, wow, I should have, like, not I should have, but like the difference being like Barbie saying, oh, I didn't realize that by not paying attention to you, it was hurting you actually. So for me, that was a modeling of how you handle it when you've been a shit and have called out.
Well, and also I feel like during that moment, of course I like tilted my head and I was America Ferrera. Like, America Ferrera and I are the same type of broken in this movie. We're chain smoking cigarettes and we're like, don't you dare apologize to the fucking himbo because we've been hurt. Like,
he stole your house.
He stole your house.
Brainwashed all your friends.
He brainwashed all of your friends. He took your White House. He colonized your entire nation because he was hoping ponies would show up. And like, so I'm America Ferrera in that scene where I'm like, we don't apologize to men. But then I saw like 30 seconds of a really great TikTok today where it's like, they keep calling Barbie Feminism 101, but that's because the Barbies needed Feminism 101. They never thought the Kens would have done this. Because, to be fair, the Kens were taking advantage of how perfect the Barbies had made Barbie Land, and they were completely satisfied with that. Mm-hmm. Right up until Ryan Gosling showed back up and was like, what if we could get horses?
And I thought it was actually brilliant for her to give him the line, I lost interest in horses when I realized, or patriarchy when I realized it wasn't about horses, because how many men are being also crushed by the patriarchy because they're not allowed to have full emotions. They're not allowed to stay at home with their kids. They're not allowed to do anything outside of the prescription of you are man.
You are man.
You man. Do man things.
You love money. You love power.
And, you know, that's not for everybody. Like, that is a system that is harmful. This is a system that is harmful to everybody because there are select few who are actually thriving within it, and those people are miserable too.
Yeah. And I will say that, you know, Jules and I, we did we went into hiding after the Barbie movie because we knew that should anyone bring us any criticism about the Barbie movie, I personally was going to cry and never leave my bed. Yes. I was like, how dare you? Greta wrote it for me. Yes. It was my summer present. How dare you? I am living the summer of the era of Barbie. I'm girling hard this summer.
Yeah.
My hair is purple. I'm chaotic bisexual Barbie at gaming conventions. Like, don't take this from me.
Don't fuck with my vibe.
I am a woman who speaks weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, about patriarchy and misogyny. Just let me have this one. Like, I'm doing the work. I'm deprogramming. And I'm trying to lead others towards deprogramming. Let me have this one movie. Let me have the Pretty Pink movie without having to think about it too hard. So I loved the movie. I had chills the entire movie. I told you I didn't cry that first time I saw the movie because I was too delighted that this was the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and I think you and I have talked about this before because I think you're the only person I've talked in depth with already about Barbie. Everyone else, like you, I'm like, I'm hiding. Don't ruin it. I'm on a good high. So I saw it 3 times opening weekend. So the vibe was very much hyped up and everyone was into it. And the crowds were just so cheering, laughing, crying, clapping, all of the things that you want in a movie theater, which is an experience I love. I love that that shared and collective emotions, but it's still very individual for the person, unique to the person, yada, yada. The second time I saw it was the second weekend, much more subdued audience. So I was really able to get into my true feelings about the film because I wasn't getting consumed by the audience reaction, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I loved being a part of the audience reaction. I loved, like I've mentioned, like I've said, I love being part of that. But the first time I saw it, the montage with all the women, my initial thought was, wait, are you telling us that we are supposed to just be like moms? Because I'm not here for that. Because Greta, just because you popped out 2 babies doesn't mean that we all need to, was kind of my first thought. And then as I saw it more and more, I got something different from that montage every single time. And then the fourth time it was, see the beauty in being a woman. Like, here's the beauty about being a woman.
Because there was a lot of feminine joy in that montage. And I think what happens the first time you see it is you see a bunch of kids and you see a bunch of women raising their kids and you're like, I don't want Barbie to be pregnant.
Right.
Midge didn't sell. It's an entire joke throughout the entire movie. No.
And everyone's like, pregnant Midge from the 60s. I'm like, bitch, no. Early 2000s. Get your facts straight.
Early 2000s. She had twins up in that belly. You popped it off with a magnet and out they plopped. And they were just like they were like a cross between a fetus and a baby. Because
yeah.
And you couldn't play with them. You just shoved them right back into her.
And there was a lot of controversy because Midge, where's the dad? Alan doesn't need to be sold in the box with Midge. Calm down.
Well, I think there's a lot of controversy because, like we talked about on Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, when we did it based on a true story, people are still very uncomfortable with the idea of viewing pregnancy.
Yes. And, like, pregnant women having full range of emotions, being horny, you know, like, all the things. Like,
well, and just, like, the act of childbirth. Like, well, if I tell my kid that women have children, I might have to say the word vagina.
Right. I mean, they weren't even allowed to say pregnant on television until, I don't know, 20 years ago.
Right, because it insinuated that someone got dicked down. But I think you're right. On that second, like, I saw the woman bowling, and I was like, oh, it's a montage about feminine joy. It's not a montage about mommy, me, and you.
Because that moment when she bowled and everyone's happy for her and she's got this bit and it's just this crowd cheer. It was just like, I like wept at that point. And then when you learn that Greta had said to the cast and crew, send in your real videos of people that you love that show us, joy and love. And then you realize these are all real women experiencing real joy in the real world. And then have you seen that interview where the interviewer's like, hey, Greta, so like, fun fact, one of the people that's in that montage is my friend who is deceased.
I know, when he says it's a dead lady in that montage, and he tells her she would have loved this movie.
Yeah.
Like, thank goodness she gets to be a part of it, because she would have been such filled with feminine joy. And let me tell you something about feminine joy. Feminine joy is the quickest way to make a misogynist mad, and the quickest way to snuff them out. And here's my story. As you know, pre-sale codes at the day that we're recording now for the second leg of the Eras tour went out last night. And so people be doing their ceremonies. Yeah. They be lighting candles. They be listening to Enchanted 3 times in a row while turning clockwise and facing the sunset. Like, people need codes. So I take a bunch of my joyful Eras photos with Stephanie in my outfit, walking up with my friend Darcy when I aided. And I make a little montage. I put it on TikTok, and TikTok is clearly nicer than me because I think only women ever visit my page. But then I throw it up on YouTube, and within the first 15 minutes, the only reason it was picking up traction is because men were fat shaming me.
Oh, God.
And I was like, this is why you hate the Barbie movie, too. Like, you're convinced that if we have joy outside of you via Taylor Swift or the Barbie movie, or fucking girls' night, every night should be girls' night, that literally there's no purpose for you, because we also get to have our own credit cards, own land, and all of it now. So now, and instead of just like rising to the occasion to be like, what if I was more fun? What if I like didn't take every opportunity to make my female partner mad and smash our wedding cake in front of all of our family and friends? Guy with the sword. Instead of like doing that, you guys swung the complete opposite direction. It was like, what if I just yell at them every time they smile?
It's interesting. So a couple thoughts in my head when you bring these up. Marginalized joy is always a threat to the patriarchy, apparently, because the same reaction happens when it comes to Black joy. Second to that, another thing that I thought of when you were speaking was the overall threat of how we can be independent, when really the response should be, how much better would it be that I married you or partnered with you because I want you and not because I need you to pay my mortgage?
And here's the thing. I didn't need the Barbie movie to tell me that. I have been telling men that for years. I've been making TikToks about that. Mm-hmm. Or I've been commenting on other women's TikToks about that, about the fact that, like, I didn't find myself in a really bad situation and therefore thought I need a man's pension. Although, ABC, I am up to being the slut on The Golden Bachelor. You just call. There's no other way I'm getting a pension, but you just call. I didn't find myself in a very dire situation and immediately ran down the aisle. I fucking chose you. Like, what a perk.
Right.
You get to walk this earth every day, be like, she chose me.
Because on the other side of that coin, the other thing that pop culture tells us is men never want to be number 2. They never want to be the second choice. So then, but if this guy, if guy number 1, who has all the things I need, so I'm not unhoused and hungry, but chose someone else and you're number 2, what do you want me to do about that? Like, sorry? Like,
sorry, I'm so sorry.
Help us recreate society so the option isn't, I gotta marry this super wealthy guy if I want to be able to not sleep in my car.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, the second time that I saw it, I got over my anger of the ending and my confusion. Because, as you know, my first reaction was an America Ferrera I'm broken inside reaction where I'm like, why would you spend 24 hours in the human world and be like, you know who I want to talk to more? Human men. No. Barbie, no. And why didn't Rhea Perlman tell her, absolutely not? Will you go and live in the world of men? I'm convinced that that's why the aliens won't actually touch down, because they know it's bad here.
They're like, we can't hang. The white men will kill us.
Right. They know. They know that they've probably got a cousin underneath the Pentagon. So
Did you hear about what they did to my cousin underneath the Pentagon?
In Area 51, this time I paid attention instead of just letting the chills and and my giant clown smile happen. And it was the only way she got out of that assumption that Will Ferrell made, where he's like, well, the next part of her story is she's going to let Ken move in. She loves Ken. And she's like, I don't love Ken. I have not liked him once in this movie.
Yeah. So here's what I love. I loved a lot of things about this film, but to tie it into what you're talking about, here's what I loved. Barbie's presented with a high heel and a Birkenstock. We have all been in that crossroads at some point. Some women are still pro high heel and for different reasons, and that's totally fine. But the symbolism of the decisions of, do you want to keep living naively in this world, or do you want to grow and become enlightened? They just happen to be represented through a pink high heel and a Birkenstock.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been there. And some women choose to ignore it, and which is part of the problem with white feminism, because they're like, oh, we're only going to worry about our white problems. What do you mean, black people? Why do you always make it about racism? That's dumb. Kind of shit, right? Did you like my face when I did that face?
The Barbie movie made us so mature.
I know, right?
Thanks, Greta.
But then to bring it to the very end, and she steps out of the car and she's chosen the Birkenstock. To me, that was her saying, I'm more, especially when she's, giving Ken that speech at the end. You can be more than just Ken. I didn't read that as her giving Ken the speech. I read it as it started out as Ken's speech, but then she's like, oh, I should be listening to what I'm saying to Ken, too. Because this whole movie, people have been trying to tell me who I am and what I am, but I need to figure that out for myself.
And for me, it's a really great parallel of women who move out of their homes, mm-hmm. whether it be your family home, your partner's home, whatever, and they have the after divorce glow up. Or they have the I'm just a small town girl living in a lonely world glow up, where it's I got out of this situation that made me comfortable and made me never want to grow. Yeah. But I knew I'd never discover anything about myself there.
Yeah, because growth is scary. There's a reason why it's very much encouraged at the age of 18 to move away and go to college, because I'm looking at 40 real soon, and I'm I'm working on deprogramming the thought and mentality that our culture has, is that you can't do that at 40. But you can, mm-hmm. because I've experienced a major life change, and so I can't be the person. I literally cannot be the person I was 5 years ago. It's not physically possible anymore. So, I love how she's, in this sort of coming of age situation, because we also always assume coming of age is only relevant for when you are a teen, but coming of age is really just having a major change in your life. So she's having this coming of age moment, and while people are very upset that she's choosing to live in the real world, she's done all that she can do in Barbie Land. Mm-hmm. She has to figure out her next steps, like you said. There has to be more to life, to her life. And even people were like, oh, and then, with Barbie Land, they just go back to the things they were, and that's so dumb. And I was like, I'm sorry, did anybody else hear when Mother was said something, and then Issa Rae, President Barbie, was like, excuse me, we're not doing that. We're not going back to the way it was. Right. And I don't know if people are interpreting that as we're not going back to the way it was when the Kens took over, or we're not going back to the way it was when it was just us in charge. I read it as we're not going back to the way it was before the Kens took over.
Right.
Because the Barbies have also now grown and learned from patriarchy, and like they need to figure out what it means for them, like to live now either cooperatively or some sort of mixture of like some sort of new version of matriarchy or what. But I didn't read it at the end as anybody going back to the way things were.
Because, number one, if Issa Rae was just be like, oh yeah, we're not going back to the Ken way of doing things. Yeah, well, the Kens got to do their way for like 3 days. Of course,
Right.
What a silly thing to tell Mother. Like,
right?
And like, what a silly thing to assume that that's what like Mother meant. Like, but are we ready to talk about how I don't care that people think that this movie was very unjustly unfair to Kens and men everywhere. Like, I do not care.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So I think that line, we're not going back to the way things are, I think if Issa...
Very specifically were.
I think if Issa Rae had then turned to Alan and said, Alan, we want you to head up the Department of Security. But instead, she turns to Kate McKinnon and Weird Barbie, offers a genuine apology to be like, hey, we did you dirty, and we are so sorry. And she's like, I'd love to clean up the dirt everywhere. Can I be in charge of sanitation? I think if they had pivoted to Alan, no one would have ever said, and now they're just going to indoctrinate the men, and the men are going to continue to be homeless. Kens didn't look homeless. We just don't know where they lived because we didn't care.
Exactly, because we never cared about where our Kens lived, ever. The thing about that scene, too, for me, Natalie, is how to me, it showed, even in a female-led and run society, we still have the potential to be bad to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were so... Oh, Weird Barbie. I want to talk to Weird Barbie. Oh my god, I can't do Weird Barbie. And then they full on were just like, Weird Barbie, come and join us. And Kate McKinnon improvised that line, apparently.
The sanitation line.
Yeah, which I love because she's brilliant and I miss her on SNL. But that's the other part of it where I'm just like, they're not going back to matriarchy because she's saying, like, we are becoming more inclusive. Is it more inclusive for Kens? I don't give a fuck.
I don't care. I literally don't. I want it more inclusive for Alan. And if the Kens get, like, privilege out of that, too, like, just cast off, like, secondhand privilege, okay.
Yeah.
And the thing about Weird Barbie is that Kate McKinnon was everyone's biggest supporter.
Yes.
She was the first one to tell you that she loved you. She was the first one to be like, we got to deprogram all these bitches from patriarchy. This isn't how we're living. You're a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Right. Which I loved. And I loved that because it reminded me of Black Widow when Scarlett Johansson and Flo go and try and like deprogram all the women, and there's that powder that sort of takes them out of it. That's what it reminded me of, where it was just like, we just got to give you this little bit of knowledge and then you can come back to us. But you don't fully lose the consciousness of what it was like when you were under the spell, but you remember enough to know that that was bad.
It was bad. It was a bad time. And honestly, if it were not for Fox News, I do think that that's how easy it would be to deprogram American women. Because everything that America Ferrera said is true, and it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, I have to breastfeed you, but I also have to suck your cock. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense.
Right. Yeah. I'm not a proponent of cable news, period.
Like, well, no, who is?
I know a lot of people who are on the other side who watch a lot of CNN, and sometimes CNN says things where I'm just like...
No, it's all just part of the propaganda machine. But that was also the beauty of Barbie, is that even with patriarchy, they didn't have a sense of media or propaganda.
Right.
Because it was all still too new, that you could easily just be like, girl, you sure? You're a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Right. And that's the other part of it, too, that I think... So here's another thought thing I had that I was saving for today. Because like you commented on how a lot of people are talking about Feminism 101. I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, maybe there are a lot of women who still need this sort of basic message. You and I have had conversations offline about how there are people in our lives who are pro-equality, but then yet there are aspects of their lives that they're still choosing to do to uphold patriarchal standards. Because all of us are in a different place in our journey of womanhood and our understanding of where we fit, there are women who are going to sit through this movie and weep and feel seen and feel understood and feel heard, and then are still going to go back to their role in patriarchy because they feel their hands are tied. And then there are women who have broken from it and have deprogrammed it from it enough that they're going to be pissed and annoyed that this was the Barbie movie we got. And then there are going to be women who are like, I just am going to enjoy it, and I didn't, and it's fine. And then so there's a lot of options here with how we feel about this film and how people feel about this film. But I think as long as we still have a large subsect of women who are feeling seen and heard, but then not empowered enough to change their position and start to deprogram from the systems that oppress them, the message is never going to change. We're always going to see sort of this feminism 101 type of concept coming from female-led films.
While we are all on different steps of our journey, and maybe I'm at feminism 401 or whatever because I have a podcast, as a country, as like the overarching country, I would still be like, oh, we're still at feminism 101. They just took my abortion rights away this summer. They don't want me to have body autonomy because then they know I'll never marry them in a shotgun wedding scenario.
We're not going to do such a sex education because then why would we want you to understand how your body works and how to prevent pregnancy? Look at what's happening in Florida right now. I mean, I know Florida's making a lot of headlines for what they're doing, but it's like, if it's being upheld in ways that exist, like you're mentioning, losing our abortion rights and all these other ways. So those are like plugs back into the system to keep us from breaking out of it. And I think that I feel like our country is way too big and not in population. And in culturally, because what California can do and the people who live in California, and when you think about all the progress we've made in California versus what's existing in other states, it's almost like, how do you create an art piece like a film that's created from IP that is for everybody when all of our country is in various states of distress?
Well, and that's why in all of the dystopian novels we're broken up into at least 12 districts. Like the first thing that happens in dystopia is that they're like, America is too big, and therefore we will section it off based on land masses. And then Europe just gets to watch us and be like, look, they're so silly. Notice how none of the dystopian novels
take place in Europe.
They're always just fucking watching us.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. Because it is really frustrating sometimes, because I live in a red community. Like, where I live is red and sometimes purple. And so it's like, when people are so mad that it's feminism 101, I'm like, no, I went and sat in a movie theater with women who are not getting messages or affirmed that they have autonomy in my Californian community.
Yeah. There are so many things that distract women from their own power and their own belief systems and their own goals. Mm-hmm. And it is motherhood. It is wifery. Mm-hmm. It is girl boss culture. There's so much at play when it comes to being a woman.
Yeah.
Being an African American in America, being a trans woman, a trans man, being any part of the queer community, any part of the non-white community. There's so much that's going in your head at all times that there are days where I'm feminist 101 and I'm like, carry my heavy bags for me. I am weak and my wrists be hurting. Like, one of my bullet points is this idea that like the Barbie movie couldn't do enough for us because women can't do enough for us. And we've been told that for eons.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like, what? Okay, so I understand, we need to have this conversation about Barbie. Like, that's a huge thing about, like, oh, why we didn't like it. This conversation is so important. I get that. Like with Black films, why is it that we expect a film for a specific community to answer and be the answer for everything? Like, why can't it just exist? Did I want more Issa Rae? 100% I did. Because I am a little uncomfortable with how much they've used her for the press tour prior to the strike, for how little she's in the movie. But that's a different conversation.
And I get it. Ken is in it a lot, but he's also the villain.
Because I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, who would be the Barbie Land villain if it were not Ken?
Capitalism. Will Ferrell.
But he lives in the real world.
I'm assuming in this movie where we're not making Ken the villain, the real, like, Mattel starts fucking around with, like, Barbie canon or whatever, and it starts to affect Barbie Land, and therefore they have to go, like, kidnap Will Ferrell.
Like in the alternative version?
Yeah. Like in the version I just wrote in my mind.
Yeah. Because I know, a lot of people are really upset with how much screen time the Kens get and the Kens have.
Oh, well, let's prepare ourselves for something we never thought I would say.
Okay.
Movies about misogyny and patriarchy and allowing women to talk about misogyny and patriarchy are the only stories you're ever going to catch me say, that's exactly the type of movie that men should be the center of. Fuck Superman. Fuck the Justice League. Thank you, Greta, for making sure that women never have to sit through the 9-hour Justice League ever again.
Can we just talk about how when that joke was thrown in about seeing the Zack Snyder cut of the whatever it was, Justice League, Spider-Man, Superman,
It's Justice League.
I fucking howled.
I died.
Because every movie bro on the planet is like, this is the greatest cut of all time.
You don't get it. You get so much more out of the 9 hours. No, I don't.
When my son and I, when it was finally on demand, my son and I were like, okay, well, let's watch it, because we didn't see it in the theater. We missed it. And we turned it on. And then we were like, 4 hours? This movie's 4 fucking hours? Are you fucking kidding? And then, an hour and a half into it, it's like, this movie is dumb. Like, this is dumb. There's no reason. There's no reason. Like, I mean, I think we finished it, but it was like begrudgingly.
I was told to break it up into 3 parts, and I was like,
if I 3 fucking movies.
If I have to break up a movie into 3 separate viewings, you can go fuck yourself, is basically what I'm saying. If Greta's true goal was, I am going to use Barbie as a platform to present feminism 101 to women who have bed partners. I don't know what Greta's like. I mean, Greta had to work with her husband on this movie so that it could even get made. So maybe Greta's feeling some things currently. I don't know. Call me, Greta. We can talk. So if Greta's whole point is, I am going to make a giant machine of just patriarchy and misogyny awareness, the men have to be at the center. It is their fault that we have patriarchy and misogyny. Because we have been screaming about all of these ways that they could be making it better, and they do not. And they just whine at us. Like, oh my God, one of my favorite parts is when Barbie's like, I just have to take 10 seconds to breathe and think. And immediately Ken is like, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm bored. I hate
it when people think. What am I supposed to do when people think?
That's what men have been doing about, like, pushing back on misogyny and patriarchy awareness. Why do you have to talk like that? Why do you have to make it out like we're all part of the problem? I go, because we're all part of we're all part of the problem because we've all lived with internalized misogyny.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Why? I'm a good man. I'm a good man. Okay.
Also, what I've learned in dating is that if you tell me you're a good guy, you're not a good guy, because good guys don't tell me, they show me. Good guys never talk about how they're a good guy. They're just a good guy.
And here's what we all should have taken away from the Barbie movie. it can happen to all of us. It took Ken 10 minutes. He went to one office and he's like, I should get to be a doctor.
Yeah. I have something sharp.
Right. I should be able to do surgery. The more this is what deprogramming looks like for me currently as a feminism in course 401. The reason why men are at the center of the Barbie movie is because men are at the center of misogyny and patriarchy. So now women are dumping their boyfriends and their husbands at alarming rates. And we know I love that. I'm always promoting that. But it's me walking through my everyday life as a human woman going, is that my friend talking to his wife like that? Mr. I'm a good guy. Is that my friend sitting through her boyfriend completely disregarding her needs? But he's a good guy. He's all right. Is that me watching my friend get passed by on a promotion because she's so emotional and may have a baby one day? Is that what I'm watching? And they have to be at the center of the movie because they're the problem. Because it's the problem. Oh my gosh, if we cut this as a soundbite and the incels find out that I actually said it, that they're the problem.
We'll have to put you in witness protection.
I know, I might have to take to the woods.
Yeah.
But this whole idea that, like, well, I just feel like the Barbie movie could have made a stronger point. It's like, what strong point have you made today? Let me know.
Well, and that goes back to our conversation about our friends who do believe in feminism and equity and equality and all these things, but yet their entire lives are still upholding the systems of patriarchy, and they're raising their children in that, and they're not doing anything to stop the cycle stop the cycle of the patriarchy, so that way the next generation can do a little bit more and move a little bit more forward. And that's where I am in my level of, feminism, is that I don't have time. I don't have the patience. I have never been a person where men have shown up for me. It's always been my fault that I'm a single parent. It's always been my fault that I can't seem to find a job that pays me a livable wage. It has always been my fault for the reason why my life is the way that it is. And there's never been any grace given to me for the systems that are in place that sort of kind of get in the way that I'm struggling to navigate. And now at 39 years old, I'm over here going, I'm not fucking playing those games anymore. I'm done figuring out my own shit. You can either be a loving, supportive person, or you can get the fuck out. And not everyone's there.
Well, and the thing of it is, too, not only is everything my fault, but it is also my responsibility to find the grace in it being my fault. And that's why Barbie had to apologize to Ken, because we've all apologized to make sure that we live one more day.
I saw a thing that said, how amazing is it that Barbie lives in a world where she can reject a man's advances and not be fearful of the consequences, because
Correct.
That's a reality too that we live in. And it is we do have to, and I hate it when people are like, oh, women are so calculating, if it's negative. It's like, well, yeah, we have to figure out how to stay alive every day.
Right. I am the only person who is ensuring that I live to the next day. Mm-hmm. Because I have, as we know, dumped, made uncomfortable, made insecure so many men that it is a miracle that I stand alive today. I just feel like none of my exes or the men in my life have the energy, the gumption, or frankly give a damn about me enough to actually murder me. So,
well, and that's the thing that's like this whole like, oh, it's men bashing, and it's like, well, think about all the movies that you and I have discussed, or just that get discussed on my show in general, where women are portrayed in a very negative way. Mm-hmm. And it's the mentality of like, just be grateful that you even have a character who represents you, who's a woman. Right. Why do we have to do more than that kind of mentality? And I'm not saying that like Greta was like, oh, we're gonna do kind of the same thing. What I'm saying is that we are not allowed or afforded the opportunity to be flawed. We have to still have everything perfect at execution. And I think that's why it kind of bothers me when people are like, oh, this movie sucks, like they could have done more. It's like, we haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to do more. Like you said earlier, like, you can't expect the first time we don't have a ton of stories to go on. I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago that was like, what is this movie like? That's one of the questions. And I was like, nothing, no notes, I have no notes. After spending time on TikTok, there's been a lot of comparisons, and the one that stuck with me the most is Black Panther. You have this interloper who comes in and says, hey, look, this is how the world is other places. We need to do that here, and then destroys a society that's been isolated forever. And that's essentially, you could say Black Panther, or you could say Barbie, because both of those things are true. People criticize Black Panther too. So until we have like an industry that is truly equitable for the people who are creatives and wanting to tell stories, it's hard for me to if I'm going to criticize, I think I want it to be in the root of something constructive rather than just like unrealistic. I don't know if that makes sense, because I feel like some of the general criticisms are just like unrealistic.
And again, there was no winning. If we had just made a fun Barbie movie, if it was just literally like the live action, The Princess and the Pauper, a classic Barbie film, if it was just a reboot of Life Size, I truly feel like it would have done okay at the box office. It never would have been the number one. Like, we've gotten some play ladies out of this movie. I mean, right now, we beat Oppenheimer. We beat Oppenheimer, and that's about a bomb and a war, and men love to cry about bombs and wars.
They sure do. The other thing that I think about, too, with this film is how a lot of people were like, well, we didn't even know what it was about because the marketing, and okay. I feel like if they had given us a full 3.5-minute trailer, it would have, not doomed is not the right word, but it would have been created a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. Because how do you create a trailer for a movie that's about intellectual property that isn't going to leave people feeling like it's not worth it to see it? Like, I think that they could have made a trailer for it. I think that it was intentional for us to be sort of in the dark about the truth about what was going to happen in this film, because the internet, you give us a little bit and everyone's going to jump on it and critique and criticize and never give it a chance. Or you could just do this fun party type of marketing campaign to get people excited and hope they show up, and then they did show up.
And then they did. So when America Ferrera, I think we discount the "I didn't play with Ken" line from America Ferrera, and then Barbie going, yeah, he's irrelevant.
People have completely missed that line. You and I have had this conversation.
But I think also that line is a direct reflection and a parallel play moment and a dump into America Ferrera's marriage, because we don't even know that she has a husband until we're well into the movie. And then the kid's like, should we tell Dad that we're going on Barbie vacay? And America was like, why? And I was like, fair.
And even when she says, I didn't even get to go on that trip that I won because of whatever reasons, I was like, that's like my vacation time. And it's this moment of like, yeah, all of my vacation time, whenever I had vacation time, was used for, taking my kid to do something that needed to be done. None of it was actually used for vacation. It was just to supplement my income, so that way I didn't lose my income because something happened that I had to cater for and care for someone else. Like, there were so many little things like that as well. I do love that it was America Ferrera's real husband in real life.
Oh, I didn't know that. Good for that guy.
Yeah.
I hope he's not that bad at Spanish. That will make me very upset.
I would be surprised, because she's fluent, and I would imagine she speaks with her children in Spanish. I would if I was bilingual.
Correct. I didn't prioritize Ken, and therefore I subtly put into my subconscious, I don't have to prioritize this man over whatever it feels like I have to do. Right now, I'm saving Barbie Land. Why should he get an opinion?
Right. That is completely superfluous. I am shocked that people missed that line, because it's as they're traveling back to Barbie Land. and to me, it felt very in my face, making it very clear that Ken is not an item we are concerned with. Therefore, answering the questions, like all the complaints that people had about all the Ken stuff, I was like, that answered it for me, because everything else after that came back to that one line.
Right. You know why the Kens had time to have, like, choreographed dance battles is because they don't have jobs.
Right. They're not in Congress. They're not in Congress. Nobody cares. Because, and so for me, it was like, we're setting it up. Ken is superfluous. No one plays with Ken. I don't know anybody who played with Ken. And when Ken did come around, he served a very specific purpose, and it was mostly sexual.
Yeah, because I was like, of course I played with Ken. I created soap operas with my Barbies, but it was literally just like, yeah, smash, 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 smash,
Right?
scissor, 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 scissor.
Right. The thing, I want to go back to the Dream Ballet really quickly, because I think I did say in the interview I did a few weeks ago, it reminded me of Gene Kelly. It reminded me of the Gene Kelly Dream Ballets that are in, like, every single one of his fucking movies. Like, did this man make a movie without a Dream Ballet? If he did, text it to me, because I've not seen it. And I've seen almost all of his movies. And I thought that, and I really loved that. And I didn't hate that it was the Kens that had the big number, because it felt very much like he's having a moment and he's trying to figure it out, and he's going through this sort of identity crisis again. And I just thought it was so beautifully done through the Dream Ballet, and it made me so happy. And I don't know, am I biased because I love fucking Dream Ballets?
Also, I think that when you say that the Kens got the only big flashy number, it's a real insult to that opening number of Barbie.
Well, I say that because that's what other people are saying.
Yeah, no. But I'm talking to them personally. I'm like, do you not? We had glittery jumpsuits. We had Ken making incel face. Like, that was, I mean, people, no one's learning the Kenough choreography on TikTok. No, they're learning.
Everyone's learning the Barbie dance party. Mm-hmm.
When he's like, Barbie, can I come over tonight? And she's like, sure, nothing's going on. I just have, like, a really big disco party planned with the girls and the other Kens, and we're going to do choreographed discography. And he's like, cool. And every night is girls' night. It did break my heart when she said not every night had to be girls' night. And I was like, every night is girls' night. You're everything. He's just Ken. It was a very big, like, you are the sun from Grey's Anatomy. You are the sun, not him.
You know what's interesting, too, is I was thinking about it more. It's like, I really do. So I had a relationship with somebody. We had seen each other a lot over the course of 2 weeks, and I was really missing my friends. And I had said, like, hey, on Friday, I really want to go see my friends. Like, they're planning this thing. I'm going to go. I really miss them, blah, blah. Solemn face. The response was a very solemn, sober looking face. And it was just like this moment of, like, that's when I kind of knew, it's like, this isn't going to work, because if you are going to have that response whenever I want to see my people, we're gonna have a problem.
No, fuck that guy. Would you indulge me in doing the big takeaway and the manifestation for the Barbie movie for my show, since we're combining our shows?
I know we're combining our shows. Yeah, of course I will. Let's do it.
All right. What is your biggest takeaway from the Barbie movie?
My biggest takeaway? God, I've had so many iterations of it over the last few weeks, because again I saw it 4 times, but I'm gonna stick with, do I want to commit to this one on your show, on your portion of the show? Do I want to commit to this? I'm gonna commit to this, and then in a year we can revisit Barbie and see where we are in our progress. I think my biggest takeaway was neither patriarchy nor matriarchy serves people. It needs to be cooperative. That was my biggest takeaway.
I feel like that was a lot of people who's complaining big takeaway too. Like, why don't they want the Kens to do anything? And I was like, well, look how well they were doing at Beach and overthrowing the government.
Okay, but I'm not angry. No,
I'm just saying, like, I'm all for cooperation with the girls, gays, and the theys.
To me, it was like, patriarchy's bad. Matriarchy's not bad, but it's also not inclusive to all the residents who live here. So what is the true solution? We have to figure that out for ourselves in Barbie Land.
You know who disagrees with you? Robert Downey Jr. Have you seen that clip where it's like, Robert Downey Jr., how do you feel about an entire society ran by women? He's like, I've been saying for decades that that's what's supposed to be happening.
So I have seen that clip. I love that clip. I think that if you're only wanting to live in white feminism, that is the answer.
Yes.
I think that because I think for me, if you want to bring the levels of race involved, if we were one society and racism didn't exist, sure. But that's not it, right? Like, we have to consider, this movie is written through the lens of white racism or white feminism, whether or not you agree with that, not you specifically, but people listening. And then also it could be like sort of a satirical commentary on white feminism if you want to go down that road. And if that is the true case, then like, we can't exist within a matriarchy that is primarily through the lens of white feminism.
Correct, because that would be icky.
It would just leave the rest of us women out in a way, and it would be in my mind, it would be just like patriarchy in the line of, but we're equal. Why are you mad?
Yeah, no, agreed. I think my biggest takeaway is, honestly, there will be so many days in September 2023 and beyond where I will have to sit in the feminine joy that was this summer between the Eras Tour, Stevie Nicks, the Barbie movie, making friendships for any and every event I could go to, having those friendships then lead me, having those friendship bracelets then actually lead me to friendships with talented people I admire, or even just getting my name to talented people I admire. There will be so many days where I will want to hold in the feeling that I felt for the events of summer 2023 and the feminine joy.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to Barbie and Taylor Swift is capitalism Barbie. We know it. She's probably also white feminism Barbie. We know it.
Yeah.
In the movie, when Margot Robbie calls herself stereotypical Barbie, the little girl goes, "What up, white savior Barbie?"
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of flaws, but I gotta take the wins where there are wins. And if feminine joy is always going to be something that is attacked, then I want to hold on to this feeling that the summer of 2023 gave me.
I love that. And we didn't even touch on the stereotypical Barbie of it all, because that literally is the lens that this film is through. She's supposed to be perfect. She's supposed to be all these things. So you're mad because she was upset because she's getting cellulite? Well, she's stereotypical Barbie. Like,
also, I'm sorry. If cellulite didn't exist in Barbie Land, and all of a sudden I looked at my thigh, and as a woman who lives in the real world, if something weird has happened on my skin, I'm like, what do you think that is?
I mean, how the fuck did we open this show? Your hand had a splotch on it. I'm
like, wait, do you think this is the end for me? Like, I've been obsessed with my cat's eye goop all week, and it's because I rubbed lotion into the shower, which she rubbed into her eye. I spent this entire recording rubbing suntan lotion in my eye and then being like, I can't understand why my eye hurts. But yeah, it would be startling. Everything that happened to Barbie was startling because it was a surprise that she had never encountered before.
Right.
Barbies don't age. The fact that she was aging is an alarm moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, also, why can't we just take the win that we now all know that Margot Robbie has cellulite, or at least let them put cellulite makeup on her? Margot Robbie, you did a hell of a job. You did a hell of a job, and your outfit slapped.
I remember something I wanted to bring up, and I totally just remembered it right now, and I'm so sorry, because I know we're getting ready to close out the show.
Go for it.
Indulge me. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is why we're good friends. And collaborators. There's a video clip circulating where Brad Pitt is referring to Margot Robbie as a Barbie when they're doing promo for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And she takes serious offense to it. Like, I'm not a Barbie. Don't call me that. I'm not a Barbie. And people were sort of pointing to that as like a kind of, you know, insert dumb stuff here. Here's the difference to me when I saw that. A man referring to you as a Barbie, because men don't understand what Barbies mean to us, what they are. They're only hearing they're maybe only hearing the discourse about how she's a detriment to feminism and she sets feminism back 50 years. We heard that speech from, you know, Sasha in the beginning of the film. That was not my experience with Barbies. Barbies were always fun, imaginative, look at what you can accomplish type of shit, versus Margot Robbie choosing to be a Barbie, versus us choosing to be a version of a Barbie that's empowered, what have you. Like, that's the difference. Like, when a man calls you a Barbie, it's an insult. When we call ourselves a Barbie, it's an empowerment.
The thing about Margot Robbie saying that don't call me a Barbie, it reminds me of like the fake discourse that people are trying to like stir up about how Amy Schumer walked away from this project.
Right.
And I'm like, leave Amy Schumer alone. I don't think, like, now we've all just made up that Amy Schumer thought that she was too good to play Barbie.
Right.
And I was like, well, number one, she did say the project just wasn't what I thought it was. So I said, no thanks. And how they're trying to be like, Amy Schumer hates the Barbie movie. She hates feminism. She just wanted to be funny Barbie lady. And then making comments about whether or not her body can uphold the Barbie image. And I'm like, fuck everybody. What if Amy Schumer wanted to go to the Barbie movie? What if she wanted to wear the Elle Woods costume to the fucking Barbie movie with all of her friends? Now y'all have ruined it.
Yeah.
Stop pitting women against one another.
That.
It was something she said a decade ago when she went, you know what, I got another offer. What are your manifestations related to the Barbie movie?
I hope that, I want this to, and we've seen it. We've seen a lot of women sort of going through this evolution of like, oh, I'm not in a relationship that's good for me. My hope is that sort of growth continues and they become a fully fledged, actualized person and work themselves out of the confines of the programming that is patriarchy. Because it's a great place to be. We will welcome you, sisters. It is a great place to be.
We will hold your hand. We will write your breakup text. We will send your exes letters that you better return her goddamn books. I'm coming for you. There's nothing I like more than what I call legal vengeance. It's just really inconsiderate. It's inconvenient and inconsiderate of me to do this to someone, but I'm doing it because I'm petty and I love petty vengeance. My manifestation is the entire female Supreme Court.
Oh my god, wouldn't that be amazing? And not full of Amy Cohen Barons either.
No, not Amy Cohen Barons. I want Issa Rae to talk to me more. I want Kate McKinnon. I would just like to get to the point in Feminism 601 where we decide that Margot Robbie and any woman who looks like Margot Robbie, they don't have anything of value to say, because that is also a tool of the patriarchy. They hate us if we're fat. They hate us if we're beautiful. They hate us. That's the moral of the story. Mm-hmm. And their best and most truthful way to hate us is to pin one another against each other. The fact that men are just calling Margot Robbie mid because they're so pissed off about this movie.
Yeah, it is really upsetting when women even play into it, too. I think that's the hardest part about the deprogramming process is when you recognize the women who are upholding the system as well.
Yeah.
The Madison Beer book we just read.
The Madison Beer book.
She felt so
disenfranchised.
And like she couldn't share her true feelings because then people would come at her because she's wealthy, because she's famous, because she's young, because she's beautiful. And it's like, you can feel all of those things even if your outside package is what we all think is what we want.
Listen, I didn't get to meet Brendan Lee Mulligan on Saturday after he gave me a special shout out for my friendship bracelet during his live stream because he had a fucking plane to catch. And I know that there are going to be very insecure people who are going to take to the internet and whine that they were in line to meet him and he had to go. But he had a show on Sunday night, and I know that because I'm a real fan. So he had a plane to catch. But I did get to hug Erica Ishii. And this is what I'm going to say about Margot Robbie and anyone, and Madison Beer and any of them. There's nothing I love more than a fucking beautiful woman. And when I say that there's nothing I love more than a fucking beautiful woman, I mean across the board.
Yeah.
Looks, brains, heart, any of it. There is nothing I find more powerful in this world than a fucking beautiful woman. And at the end of the day, we're all fucking beautiful, and that's why they're scared.
And how much happier and better would society be if we didn't play the, well, you have this, so you shouldn't be allowed to feel bad game.
Right. I believe we did a whole podcast episode about it. I believe it's called Blame and Shame.
Oh, yeah, we did. Go listen to that after you've listened to this.
Too much blame and shame, baby. And that's why the old woman, when Margot Robbie went, "You're beautiful," she went, "Fucking duh."
Yes, and you know, Greta had to fight to keep that scene in.
Right, because men hate old women. God forbid a woman should age.
And she was even on camera saying, like, to me, that's the heart of the movie. That's the heart of the movie. That is the whole point on why we are here. And that made me cry because we have had conversations on Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous about how, you know, there's this point where when you become aged that everyone just doesn't care about you anymore. And, like, it's scary. But wouldn't it be so much better if the concepts of Barbie Land, like we're all together, we all love each other, we're all connected, we all support each other, truly did exist in our society?
Well, Jules, do you want to plug first or do you want me to plug first? Because it's difficult because we're combining this episode onto both of our shows. And usually we would let the guest go first, but technically there's no guest. We're co-hosting.
We're co-hosting. And you know what? I'm going to do a separate outro completely.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to probably...
All right. So that's how we're doing it, everyone. We're going to be classy about it. And we're just going to fill in this time with a pre-recorded outro. All right. And as promised, here is our pre-recorded outro. Thank you so much for joining Julia and I on our episode about the Barbie movie. Make sure that you're following us on Instagram at Men I've Tolerated Pod. There's a link tree in the bio where you can find us on TikTok, on all podcast platforms, and hopefully you're subscribed to at least one of those platforms and you've given us a review. Julia can be found on Instagram at the Julia Washington, Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, and Hues by Jules. She's been selling some beautiful hand-painted cards on Hues by Jules every Friday, so make sure to go check that out so you know how to get your own set of Barbie cards or other seasonal cards that she has planned. Thank you so much, Tolerators. Have a great rest of your day.